Rico Dowdle was incredible. And what makes it even better is you knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. The Cowboys knew it was coming. He told the Cowboys it was coming, and it still came.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Monster Monday where I give you my overall themes from the Sunday that was week 6 in the NFL, and then give you the 2 or 3 major takeaways I have from every single game. It is a new week here on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast network of shows, which means we'll have the College Draft Podcast this morning as well. Emory Hunt had yet another winning week. For those of you into college football or the top NFL draft prospects, or certainly betting on college football, the Even Money Podcast with the great Steve Fezzik will be tomorrow. That's part 1 of 2 NFL betting podcasts we have every single week. But today is about the games on Sunday, so you know exactly what happened in every game. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
All right, Ross, what were your overall themes from week 6 across the NFL so far?
Well, you're right. We still have 2 games tonight, Jack, including my game. I'll be in the booth tonight with Kevin Harlan, Westwood One, for the Bears at the Commanders. Very, very exciting. Anytime I get to do any game, but, you know, it's really cool to do a Monday Night Football game with Kevin Harlan. You have to always remember, like, okay, no, you're the analyst here. You can't just listen to Kevin. You're the analyst. You're the other guy. You got to be ready to go. So, I mean, I guess pregame warm-up injuries, I got to tell you, maybe one time that happened that I can recall during my 7 years as a player. The Colts had it happen not 1 but 2. Anthony Richardson, their backup quarterback, fractured an orbital bone around his eye socket doing band work, which I don't know if that means his hand slipped and his hand came back and hit him in the eye, or the band snapped. I don't know, but that sounds bad. And then I saw the video of Charvarius Ward. He's the number 1 corner for the Colts. Number 1 corner. And before the game, he's doing warm-ups, and he gets blindsided by their 3rd string tight end and totally knocked out, which is really concerning because Ward missed a game earlier in the year. I believe it was week 2 with a concussion. So typically, you get a second concussion that close to each other, you have to go on IR. And you're out for 4 weeks. So something to keep in mind and keep an eye on for the Colts. That would be devastating. He's by far their best corner. So something to make note of. I mean, you want to talk about bad fortune, bad luck there for the Colts. You know, we'll talk more about that with Dr. Chow on Thursday's edition of the Even Money Betting Podcast. But I think that's usually the case. You know, that happened, certainly was the case with Ryan Kelly, the center for the Vikings, after he got his second concussion. You know, one of the other takeaways I had, Jack, or one of the themes, coaching is even more important than we think. When I watch these end of first half, end of game scenarios with clock management, decisions, you know, so many of these games are so close, and it comes down to the margins, and just one extra little decision here or there is difference between your team getting a field goal attempt or the other team getting a field goal attempt or whatever, right? It's clearly can be the difference in a lot of these games. Boy, you can just tell the difference between some coaches and others. And it is significant, which I think is a big reason why these guys get paid so much and why teams make moves like they do when things aren't going well. It makes a huge, huge difference. And along those lines, I would add to that, in addition, the truth is you never really know how someone is going to be as a head coach until they're a head coach for the first time. You know, Aaron Glenn, everybody was excited about Aaron Glenn. Everybody thought he'd be a fantastic head coach. I saw the Mike Tomlin comparisons, and Aaron Glenn might grow into being a good head coach, but I don't know how you can see what the Jets have done so far and think that he is doing a good job. That end of half in their game yesterday against the Broncos was atrocious, absolutely atrocious. So I think that point needs to be made is, people are always excited about different head coach candidates, but the reality is you don't really know until they get a chance. You're basing it on how they did coaching one side of the ball or the other as a game planner and play caller, or maybe you like their press conferences. Being a head coach is a different job. I got two more, Jack. One is I took my family to the Penn State Northwestern game, and I'll talk more about that on the College Draft podcast. And Penn State, near the end of the game, tried to let Northwestern score, and Northwestern didn't do it. My mom, by the way, thought that they were just being nice. Oh, those are the nicest boys that they didn't go in and score, even though they could have. But Mom, it was strategic. Penn State was trying to let them score. Anyway, then yesterday, I'm trying to think, who was it? The Cowboys, maybe? I just don't remember growing up. You would hardly ever see teams try to let the other team score. Now you see it a couple times a weekend. I did this weekend. And also fourth downs. In the Chiefs-Lions game, the first half, they each went for it on multiple fourth downs. There was no punts. I've long said I wanted to get rid of punting and kicking. We're not going to get to that point, but this is about as close as we're going to get, which is pretty cool with all these teams being so aggressive on fourth down. The other thing I would say is, being home on a Sunday and being able to watch it, those last 15 minutes of the 1 p.m. slate on the red zone, it's just fantastic. When every game's in the last 5 minutes or so, and, all these critical plays are being made, and they're taking you from one to the other, it is fantastic. And I'll say this, with me having the Even Money betting podcast, even more so. Even more, it really does add to it, because even if the outcome's decided, a lot of times with the betting line, it isn't. I mean, that is as good of a television product as I'm aware of. Those last 15 minutes of the early slate of games on the red zone is just fantastic. More great stuff right after this. Who doesn't love a flash sale, and who doesn't love a new shower? I do. I mean, right now, you can check out their 1-week flash sale, they being America's most trusted home remodeler, West Shore Home, by the way, which ends this Saturday, October 18th. You get a new shower installed by Thanksgiving, or the entire project is free. Some exclusions apply, so see a design consultant for details. But let's get this done by Thanksgiving. I just got my shower, and it's like life-changing. There's like 5 different settings on my shower head to change the water dispersion. I love it. Free installation on all projects, plus save an extra $500 now by scheduling at westshorehome.com/Ross. That's westshorehome.com/Ross. See website for details. Cannot begin to tell you how helpful it was to have my Labatt Blue Light cooler backpack up at Penn State on Saturday while I was going from tailgate to tailgate. You want to talk about clutch? And I got it for free just by buying Labatt like you can. Buy beer, get gear. Go to rewards.labattusa.com. I'm telling you, either for yourself or for someone else, that cooler backpack changes lives. Rewards.labattusa.com.
All right, we'll go to the Jets. You kind of talked about a little bit earlier. Their season continues to hit new low points, losing to the Broncos 13-11.
Well, for those of you who didn't see it because it was the early game in London, the Jets defense played really well. In fact, it was the best performance by the Jets defense this year, I would say by far, which was the encouraging part. The flip side is they did essentially nothing on offense. I mean, Breece Hall had a few runs, but other than that, they had negative net passing yards because that's what happens when you get sacked. Justin Fields was sacked 9 times. It's kind of hard to think about, okay, how many of those were on the offensive line? How many of those do you give credit to the Broncos defensive line? And a lot of them. And how many are on Justin Fields? You know, the Jets could have attempted a game-winning, whatever it would have been, 62-yard field goal late. They elected not to. Now, I know Nick Folk is up there in years, but it feels like that would have been a better choice. And then Justin Fields takes a sack. Justin, it's 4th down to end the game. You have to throw the ball up in the air somehow, somewhere. It's just not a good sign when quarterbacks take sacks on 4th downs. And it goes back to the decision-making by Aaron Glenn that I talked about a minute or two ago. End of the first half, it's 4th and 1. They're at midfield. The Jets stood there and let 30 seconds go off the clock and just ran the clock out at that point. I mean, that was worst case scenario. You call out routes and snap the ball with 7 seconds left and try to throw an out-of-bounds out route with 2 seconds left to try to get a field goal attempt. If it's incomplete, the other team gets what, a Hail Mary? I mean, and then the end of the game, I mentioned it with them not kicking the 62-yard field goal. Maybe they knew Folk couldn't hit it, but it seemed like that would have been a better choice than what they did, which was take yet another sack.
Baltimore season, that one's just starting to look bleak over there. A 17-3 loss to the LA Rams.
Absolutely epic Rams goal line stand took away any chance the Ravens had to win this game. The Ravens were down on the 1 yard line. They run, maybe 2. They run Mark Andrews with like a tush-push play twice, and they can't do it. These other teams can't do it like the Eagles can do it. And then on 4th down, then they finally do hand it to Derrick Henry. He gets stuffed. The Ravens' run game with Derrick Henry was much better, and their defense was much better. The fact is, the Ravens' run game and defense is the formula they had to have when they didn't have Lamar Jackson, and that actually gave them a chance to win. But the turnovers, I mean, the Zay Flowers fumbles, Byron Young and Jared Verse were typically awesome as usual. So was Landman, the linebacker. Cooper Rush got benched late. And, I mean, even the Rams, their kicking unit, they doinked a 26-yard field goal, which, by the way, that was the loudest 26-yard field goal doink I've ever heard, as the Ravens ultimately only scored 3 points and lose again.
Rico Dowdle, he had the most predictable revenge game of all time. 30-27 Panthers win over the Cowboys.
He also had the most easy decision I've ever had for the 11 Oaks hungriest performance of the week. Got yet another email from you guys about delicious 11oaksfarms.com/Ross. Genuine Wagyu beef. They also have Angus beef, heritage breed pork, free-range chicken. It's all locally raised and available nationwide online. 11oaksfarms.com/Ross, 11oaksfarms.com/Ross. Be like the other listeners or people that check us out on YouTube and get your meat from 11oaksfarms.com/Ross. Rico Dowdle was incredible. And what makes it even better is you knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. The Cowboys knew it was coming. He told the Cowboys it was coming, and it still came. I mean, that is on some level embarrassing for the Cowboys defense, in particular, Matt Eberflus. You knew they were going to give the ball to Rico Dowdle a lot. He embarrassed and humbled the Cowboys organization for not bringing him back, number one. And then number two, he told you and talked trash, and you still let him run around, through, over you, through the air. He had a Panthers franchise record on you. Kudos to Rico, man. I love it. As a guy that played against teams that let me go or moved on from me, that was awesome. Other than that, I thought Bryce Young did a decent job driving it down the field. He had success against that just woeful Cowboys defense. The thing that's crazy is, on the flip side, no CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens has been absolutely unstoppable. I don't know how the Panthers allow that to happen, because the Cowboys were one-dimensional. They could not run it with guys like Bobby Brown and obviously the big guy Derek Brown stuffing things up. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, their offense couldn't get it done late. Their offense came up small late when it mattered the most.
Indy's offense, they step up late to beat the Cardinals 31-27.
Well, we already talked about the injuries to pregame warmups of Charvarius Ward and Richardson, with Ward being the more concerning one, clearly. I mean, those are both bad injuries for the Colts. No Kyler Murray, as predicted by Dr. Chow on Thursday's Even Money podcast. No Kyler Murray with this heel injury, or toe injury or whatever. So Jacoby Brissett started, and guess what? He played very well. He gave the Cardinals the chance to win, even though, by the way, Harrison Jr. was knocked out with a concussion earlier in the game. Brissett played, has Kyler Murray played that well this year? As well as Brissett played in that game? Could have even been a late touchdown. I thought Trey McBride probably got interfered with on that fourth down late. Meanwhile, for the Colts, they know what their formula is. Big day for Jonathan Taylor. Big day for Tyler Warren yet again. The difference is, in this one, Daniel Jones had to lead a late 9-play, 66-yard game-winning drive for the touchdown, and he did. He got it done. Kudos to Daniel Jones for getting that done, even though probably a lot of people didn't think, that was Daniel Jones' forte. Game-winning drive. Chalk it up.
Seattle, they get a massive statement win on the road, 20-12, beating the Jags.
9 straight road wins for the Seahawks. 9 times. You know what movie that's from, Jack?
I'd slip me. It's too early.
9 times.
No, what is? If you say it, it'll probably come back to me.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, Bueller. I've seen the movie. I can't remember that quote.
You have seen it?
Ferris Bueller? Yeah.
Well, it's way before you were born. Anyway, 9 straight road wins is insane. The Seahawks' underrated defensive line continues to get it done. Byron Murphy, DeMarcus Lawrence, Uchenna Nwosu. The Seahawks, and I'm not even talking about Leonard Williams, who had incredible effort. The Jaguars just had too many penalties, double-digit penalties again. And the biggest thing is, the Jaguars had been living by getting takeaways. They got none against Darnold and the Seahawks. No takeaways, no victory for the Jaguars. Meanwhile, offensively for the Seahawks, mainly just Smith and Jigba, who has been fantastic. 9 straight road wins. This time it was Smith and Jigba doing it in Jacksonville. Big win for the Seahawks.
Chargers, they beat the Dolphins, who are having some attendance issues, 29-27.
Well, so Justin Herbert, the Dolphins, they did some really positive things. They ran it well. Devon Achane had a huge day. Tua had 3 interceptions. The first one was clearly a drop. by Jalen Waddle. But the Dolphins, they go all the way down the field, 4th and goal. Tua is able to find Darren Waller. They take the lead, and then they give up a big kick return in a moment where you can't do that. And then Jalen Phillips is all over his legs. Herbert shucks him off, throws it to McConkey. McConkey makes some moves. Next thing you know, Chargers are in field goal range. Unbelievable job, by the way, by their holder. Unbelievable job by their holder on a bad snap on the game-winning field goal. The Chargers ran it very well. Kamani Vidal, 124 yards on 18 carries. And then you're right, Jack. Late after the game, Tua talked about players being late for players-only meetings. He's talking about player-led meetings when they say, hey, let's get together Friday afternoon and let's go over the game plan, or let's go over the blitz pickup, or whatever. Players do that. In fact, the good teams, players do that a lot. Evidently for the Dolphins, they don't show up. Some of the guys don't show up, or they show up late. The sad part about that is I don't know if Tua realizes it's a bad look for him, right? If he's the one calling these players-led meetings and guys are showing up late or not at all to those meetings, that's a lack of respect that some of the players have for Tua, which is really concerning. And I'm not sure he realized saying that publicly would make that clear.
Steelers are 4-1 after a 23-9 win against the Browns.
So Aaron Rodgers, he's not what he used to be, but he had sort of some vintage, I would call them encouraging Rodgers-esque plays. The one to touchdown to Connor Haywood, the one throw to DK Metcalf. Aaron Rodgers had some throw. I mean, usually most of it was underneath stuff, but he had a couple where you were like, okay, Aaron Rodgers, I see a glimpse. They also did a really nice job of targeting the new Browns cornerback, Tyson Campbell, right after the trade. He got there Thursday. That's exactly what you do. Because no matter how talented he might be, obviously the Jaguars traded him for a reason. He had been struggling. But also, his brain is swimming a little bit with a new team, new defense, all of that. It's a perfect guy to attack. Meanwhile, for the Browns, I'm surprised that they threw it as much as they did. You can say, oh, they were down by 2 scores or 3 scores a lot. I guess, but it was 9-3 at halftime, and that's just not going to be a good formula for success for the Browns to throw it that much.
Watch out for New England, Ross. They beat the Saints 25-19.
Drake May is the real deal, especially on third down, just like Greg Cosell said on Thursday and Friday last week. How about Kayshon Boutte? 2 touchdown catches, a huge third down conversion late. Again, I thought Spencer Rattler gave the Saints a chance to win, running the ball, everything, but Olave had some drops. The Saints themselves can't run it. Juwan Johnson had that fumble. The Saints only had 19 points, even though they crossed into Patriots territory 6 times.
Next up, the Titans struggles. They continue with a 20-10 loss to the Raiders.
Well, Cam Ward, I would say his lack of taking care of the football is starting to be a real concern. Whether it's the ball security in the pocket, does he have small hands? Because it feels like the ball comes out of his hand or slips out way too easily. Then he had some bad throws as well where he's putting it in harm's way. Geno Smith didn't do a lot, as it was mainly just checking it down. But he didn't throw multiple picks, which is all the Raiders needed him to do in this game. Devin White has found the fountain of youth or reincarnation or something with the Raiders. I tweeted this, Jack, at Ross Tucker NFL. We're at Ross Tucker Pod. Anytime they showed that game on the red zone, I was just watching either Max Crosby or Jeffrey Simmons. Those guys, absolute superstars on bad teams that never get their due.
Next up, San Francisco. They just cannot get rid of the injury bug, Ross. The Bucs win 30-19.
Fred Warner done for the year, devastating fracture and dislocated ankle. It's just not going to happen for the 49ers this year. You can't lose your 2 best players on defense, maybe the 2 best players on the team, It is such a shame. We've talked about it other weeks. Mac Jones had another big day, especially to Bourne. Juwan Jennings reportedly has all these bad ankles and fractured ribs, but Mac Jones at least felt like he gave them a chance. But the Bucs defense did a better job of getting pressure and forcing turnovers from the Niners. And obviously, we say this every week, but Baker Mayfield is just must-see TV. MVP or not, he's incredibly entertaining with these scrambles and these throws late. I mean, it's the throw to Tez Johnson, unbelievable. And he had to do it without Emeka Egbuka as the Bucs wide receiver hamstring curse continued.
Joe Flacco, he was just not enough for the Bengals in a 27-18 loss to the Packers.
But he gave them a chance. He gave them a legitimate chance to win. I thought he was pretty awesome in the second half of that game, giving T. Higgins and Jamar Chase the opportunity. I don't know what happened to my guy, Yossi Vash. I think he dropped 3 balls in the second half of that game. As the Bengals lost both Mike Gesicki and Trey Hendrickson during the game. Not good because they have a short week Thursday night. I'm calling that game against the Steelers. Meanwhile, for the Packers, nice game for Jordan Love, and in particular, getting the ball to Matthew Golden, who had a solid game. I love Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is a tackle-breaking machine.
And the Chiefs, they just reassure everybody they're going to be just fine with a 30-17 win over the Detroit Lions to get back to 500.
Well, Josh Simmons, they didn't find out till like the night before the game or maybe that day that he was going to be out, their left tackle, with personal reasons, which is very rare. To go through all the practices, everything, all the reps, but obviously things in life come up. Hopefully everything's okay for Josh and his family. One of the big plays of the game was the first drive for the Lions. They marched for the touchdown, but then Jared Goff, there was a technicality. He needs to get back from center and wait for a second, evidently, and he didn't do that. It was just, the first half was an awesome back and forth, no punts, but the Lions offense eventually stalled out in the second half. Chris Jones came to play, but the defense could not stop Mahomes in the second half as the Chiefs pulled away to win. Felt like all those injuries against the Lions finally came back to haunt them. Other than that, definitely check out the College Draft Podcast today, and we'll have my Power Rankings Tuesday and my thoughts from the 2 Monday night games tomorrow. I think we're done here. Don't go anywhere. Got to pay some bills real quick. Man, it was so nice being able to tailgate a little bit on Saturday with my wife, father-in-law, some friends, my daughters. I do not get to do that very often. And thankfully, Smirnoff does game days. So Smirnoff was able to help bring fans together to cheer on their favorite team, or in my case, me, with my family at a Penn State game and getting a chance to enjoy that part of it, which is very, very cool. Grab a bottle of Smirnoff at your local retailer and head to Smirnoff.com to find recipes of delicious cocktails perfect for game day. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. It is by far the best gift you could ever get a loved one, whether it's an anniversary, which happens a lot in October, or you're getting ahead of the game for the holidays. Myfrontpagestory.com, backofficescheduler.com, humanheadnyc.com, Sporticulture, Pizza Boy Brewing.